Okay, so for the second part, we're going to talk about this MRP processing. And again, this is where you take your master schedule where we said we have to build 70 week 3. And now we're going to explode that up and say, okay, 70, when are we going to start putting these together? When do I need to start ordering them? That type of thing. So this is where you get into those details. So this is what an MRP record looks like. Your gross requirements is your total expected demand. So how much are you expecting to sell? Your scheduled receipts are open orders that are and when they're scheduled to arrive. So any orders that you have open, when are you supposed to get them? And your projected available is going to be, or projected on hand, is expected inventory on hand at the beginning of each time period. Okay, and these are, we're going to look at these as weeks. You can look at them as days too. Your net requirements is the actual amount needed in each time period. And then your planned order receipts is the quantity expected to receive at the beginning of the period offset by the lead time. And your planned order releases are the planned amount in order for each time period. So we're going to break this out so you can see what this looks like. It looks far more complicated, but you're just going to keep drilling down. And so one, it's like a tree, and one feeds off the next. And it's not hard math. Most computer systems will do this on their own, but we're going to kind of do it a little bit by hand so you can understand where the numbers are coming from. The MRP is based on the product structure tree diagram that we did before, so the requirements are determined level by level, beginning with the end item and working down the tree. Okay, so I'm going to look at this. This is going to be like in a shutter. The shutter is the end item, so you're going to start with that, and then you're going to work your way down the tree. Then you're going to build your frames and your wood sections. Okay. So as an example, you need on week 4 100 shutters, and on week 8 you need 150 shutters. So my gross requirements for shutters, it's going to carry down here, 100 here and 150 there. Okay. Now if we go back to the previous page, we see that we need 2 frames and 4 wood sections. That's going to be important to remember. So my gross requirements are here. I have no inventory, so there's no inventory on hand. The lead time is 1 week. So my net requirements for week 4 is 100. I plan to get 100 in, but I need to have them released to me the week prior for the lead time on this. So this is when I need them. So I need all my shutter assemblies on this date. Okay. So to make the frames, I'm going to take 100 shutters that I need, and I need 2 frames for each shutter. So that's going to be 200 pieces. So that's my 200 requirement. So if we go back to this page here, see 2 frames. So I need 2 pieces of frames to make the shutter. So I need 2 frames, that's going to be 200. And so I need them on week 3 so that I can give them to the people assembling the shutters so that they have a week to make them. So my net requirements is 200. I don't have any on hand, and I'm going to plan to get 200, but my lead time's 2 weeks for them. So I have to take this back 2 weeks. So therefore, beginning week 1, that is when I need to order those frames and make sure I have them so that I have them ready to give to the folks that are going to assemble the shutters. The same thing is going to happen here, but it's 300 because you had 150 required on week 8. And that 300 is going to be brought over 2 weeks for the lead time. Okay. Now this one is separate because these are those wood sections. So if I go to the previous page on wood sections, I need 4 for each shutter. So, it's like doing its own thing. So in this section, I'm going to take my 100 up here for my planned order release. I'm going to multiply that by 4 because I need 4 of them. And so I'm going to need 400 wood sections on week 3. Just like I need 200 frames then, I also need 400 wood sections. But in this case, I've got 70 on hand. So I had 70 coming in week 1, so I have 70 on hand. So if I have any inventory and I have anything on hand, I'm going to subtract that from my requirements. So I have 330. So I need to get 330 in, so I have a total number of inventory, and my planned order release then is a lead time of a week. This would be 330 week 2. So I have to order 200 on week 1 of these and 330 on week 2. So the question might be, why don't I just order all of them on week 1? Well, then you're paying to hold the inventory an extra week. So this helps keep your inventory cost down. The same thing happens for the 150 order of 150 shutters. I have to multiply that by 4, so that's 600 wood sections I need. I have none on hand anymore because I used them all, and then I'll have to order 600 on week 7. So then by week 7, I have all 600 of my wood sections, and I have all 300 of my frames, so I can build my 150 shutters for week 8, because it takes a week. I hope that makes sense. This is simple because there's only 2 levels. When you get to 3 levels, you have to keep following it down. So the process of identifying the parent items that have generated a given set of material requirements are usually denoted by letters or kind of that flow. The MRP is not a static document, so some orders get complicated, some get finished, some get added to it. You might have some canceled, so and then you might have a product or a part that's delayed. So if any of that happens, this previous thing, you don't get them in on time, it's going to change all of the schedule, right? So this schedule is going to continually be updated. And then if you have missed deliveries, all that kind of stuff, the weather, think about the weather and how that might impact it. So when you're updating the system, there's basically 2 basic systems. There's the regenerative system, which is an approach that updates the MRP records periodically, or a net change system, which updates the MRP records all the time. So the regenerative one is maybe after a specific period of time or a batch is completed, it's just going to revise it. And then the net change is as soon as it changes, it updates. Okay. And safety stock, we talked a little bit about in the beginning section, and theoretically, when you're using this, you shouldn't need it, right? Because you've already planned when you're going to order it. But variability may necessitate the use of safety stock. And sometimes if your lot sizes are a little bit bigger, you might have some stock on hand just because of the variation in lot sizes, which we didn't have in the last example. When lead times are variable, the concept of safety time is often used, and that's when you schedule orders for arrival sufficiently ahead of their needs so that the shortage is eliminated, that risk. So a lot for lot ordering is the order run size is equal to the demand for that period. So you don't have a lot of inventory. That's really nice. Economic order quantity can lead to some costs if usage is fairly uniform. But if it's not uniform, then you could have like higher costs. But you might do this if you have like lumpy demand. If you have some lower level items that are common to different parents, so I think on the chair example, there was 2 pieces that were common in both the front and the back. And so then you might order them all together, even though you might need them at different times. So that would probably be the best way to describe economic order quantity. In fact, I can take you to that so you can see that. So in the beginning section, we looked at this chair assembly, and we had legs, the crossbar, side rails, crossbar, and back support. This back assembly might have to get ordered in advance of the front assembly because it's simpler, but you have a crossbar in both. So you might decide to order the crossbar at one time because it's cheaper to get them all in, and maybe you have some on hand extra. So that is that economic order quantity. Where it just might make more sense to do that. And in that case, I think it would. Okay. And then fixed period ordering provides coverage for some predetermined number of periods. You're just going to order every so often, and then you'll always have stock. So benefits to the MRP, it enables managers to determine quantities of each component, to know when to release the orders, and to be alerted when items need attention. If you're going to be late, you know you're going to be late. And then you can also track your materials, your capacity requirements, your production time. It really does help you kind of see what you need and when you need it, as long as all of your information is accurate. Okay. So they do have system requirements, and it's very helpful and easy to use. It's just not so easy to implement. I think one of the biggest issues with implementing MRP is just the amount of information that you have to put in, and assumptions that are made. And if you have a lot of variability, any type of system becomes a little bit problematic, and you may have to have workarounds. So people, inaccuracy of information in your system, that's also a problem. So those are things to kind of watch out for when you're using it. Capacity requirements planning is the process of determining your short-range capacity for these. And so you can use your MRP to assist with your capacity planning, which is nice, and you can kind of create load reports. And then enterprise resource planning is really looking at the evolution of putting it all together. And enterprise looks at integrated models, so you have your production integrating with your human resources, integrating with your finance, and all of these different areas work together and share information, so it's not like in a silo. Oh my gosh. So this is some of the different areas that ERP software modules have. They have supply chain inventory. Some examples of ERP would be like SAP, Oracle. Those are some really popular ones. There's plenty of other homegrown ERP software models out there as well. So those are just some things to think about. One of my assignments when I was working at Schneider, one of my last assignments was helping us convert from Lawson, which was an HR system, to Oracle, where HR became kind of like the hub of how you dispatch, and all this information was shared, and it was very complicated and took us a long time. In fact, I think they're still probably working out some of the bugs. So, but it can, think about shared information, it can really definitely help an organization as well. I think I need to change the battery in my mouse. So that's a little bit about ERP and MRP. I also want to show you that in your learning plan, I will have this Excel spreadsheet posted in here for you. So this is a component requirement in creating that schedule. So you can kind of look at the different pieces and the different part numbers and actually map it out and figure out how many of each you need to create your levels. But then it also has an MRP spreadsheet. I'm gonna make this bigger. And this is looking at the shutters and the frames and the wood sections. So here's the shutters, which is the high level piece. And then you've got the frames and the wood sections. If you have, there's some examples. The one to do that I really like is the scissors one, because you can do this all the way down. But basically, you'll have your end item, and then this is like A and D and B, and you can actually create all your different levels and plan out when you're going to be working them. So this isn't as handy of a sheet as the previous chapter where you can just plot in and it fills in information. You need to fill it out, but you're going to need to manually fill this out as well and think through it. So basically, if you follow through with what was in here on how to look at specifically the wood shutters, I think that's going to help you immensely with finishing your homework assignment for this week. I also believe, let me check here, that if I go into class materials for this learning plan, there's also some narrated, not the narrated lectures. I thought there were some examples. There's not examples on this one. So I think that the by hand should work, but definitely use that spreadsheet to help you lay it out so that you can see it. And you can plug in the numbers here and do that before you do it on your homework assignment for this lesson. So if you have questions, let me know. Definitely my favorite problem to work on is the scissors one, and I don't know the number. I don't have my book in front of me, but if you look in the back of the book, there's a picture of the scissors. You can work through the component requirements, which is a master bill, and then also of materials, and then you can also do this example of where you do your MRP with it, and it's not too complicated, but it's enough to challenge you, so it's one that I highly recommend working on. If you have any other questions, please let me know.